Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really startling paper trail straight out of Maharashtra's Education Department. We're going to examine a very specific, highly documented case centering around Hindustan Vidyalaya. And what it does is expose a massive, gaping hole between administrative rules and what actually happens on the ground. Okay, let's jump right into the documents and see what they reveal.
Right off the bat, I want you to picture this. If a strict government order explicitly says an employee must be dismissed within 3 months if they fail to meet a condition, how on earth does that exact employee keep their job and their salary for over 2 decades? It sounds completely impossible, right? Well, as we're about to see, the paper trail tells a very different story.
So this is the exact gap we're looking at today. On paper, the government regulations are totally uncompromising. When you're appointed to a reserved category post, you have an absolute hard deadline of 3 months to submit a caste validity certificate, period. But the reality on the ground? A staggering 20-year delay in this specific case with practically zero enforcement of that original deadline.
Let's actually map this out on a timeline. We are looking at the career of Mr. Manoj Kapekar. Back in 2001, he gets appointed as a physical education teacher. Fast forward to 2005, his appointment gets official approval, but it comes with that strict 3-month condition attached. Then, crickets. Just total administrative silence until 2020, when he suddenly moved into a supernumerary post. And get this, it was only then that the caste validity certificate was finally pursued and approved in 2021. Just look at that massive 15-year void between 2005 and 2020.
Section 1. The paper trail. Following the evidence.
You're probably wondering, how did the system actually allow this to happen? Well, we can't just go off hearsay. We need to look at the primary source documents. Take a look at this official 2005 approval letter granting continuation of service. If you check out Note 2 right down at the bottom, it literally spells it out. The employee is given a strict 3-month deadline to submit their caste validity certificate, and it firmly declares that failing to do so means the appointment is automatically canceled. The rule was put in writing, plain as day.
But to really get the full context, we actually need to rewind a bit further. This older document from 1995 shows where he originally started out at Hindustan Vidyalaya as a peon. It was from that foundational position that he was later promoted to the physical education teacher post in 2001. And because that promotion fell under a reserved category, that is exactly what triggered the requirement for the validity certificate we were just talking about.
And here is how that requirement was eventually resolved. But look closely at the date on this caste validity certificate. The official records show it was submitted to the Scrutiny Committee in August 2021 and finally issued on November 11, 2021. So, that 3-month deadline set back in 2005? Yeah, it was only actually fulfilled 16 years later.
Section 2. The financial and administrative fallout.
That immense gap in time isn't just some clerical oversight. It has massive, real-world implications. 16. I really want to let that number sink in. For 16 years, a continuous government salary was drawn by this employee without fulfilling the absolute foundational condition of his reserved appointment. Critics and complainants are pointing out that taking reservation benefits for this long without the required validity is essentially a massive fraud on the government exchequer.
Things finally hit a breaking point in 2020. Because he still lacked the certificate, the then acting headmaster stepped in and moved him to a supernumerary post. According to the case files, this administrative demotion was the wake-up call that finally pushed him to get his certificate. But here's the crazy part. He still waited another year after that without filing any court petitions regarding his status. Meanwhile, formal complaints from his colleagues started rolling in, alleging that even after being demoted, he was still out there illegally exercising administrative and financial powers.
You can literally feel the frustration bleeding through these documents. This right here is page 2 of a formal complaint by a colleague, Ramchandra Garjali. He uses some seriously piercing language, straight up calling the situation administrative anarchy. And he's asking the hard, urgent questions. Who exactly is protecting these irregularities? And why are government orders being blatantly ignored by the school's management with zero consequences?
Section 3. Unanswered questions and the push for accountability.
So the staff and activists, they aren't just taking this lying down. They're using tools like the Right to Information Act to force some transparency. Here we have an RTI application filed directly with the Education Department, asking for hard evidence of any official action taken regarding those 16 years of unauthorized salary payments. And what happened? Well, according to the complainants, in response to these RTI queries, the Education Department basically just threw their hands up. They completely failed to provide concrete evidence of any punitive action or recovery efforts.
The friction is really escalating rapidly now, though. Take a look at the stern warning letter from the education officer addressed to the school management. Because the management failed to follow administrative directives regarding staff reinstatements and taking action, the department is now literally threatening to appoint an external administrator to completely take over the school's operations. The system is finally starting to push back against all of this inertia.
So what is the ultimate goal of all these complaints? Based on the documents, their actionable demands are clear, and they are severe. First, they want a full financial recovery of the 16 years of salary drawn without validity. Second, a deep, thorough verification of all the documents submitted for the validity certificate to ensure absolute truthfulness. Third, a total halt on any future promotions for the individual. And fourth, and this might be the most important one, they want an investigation to identify exactly who in the system actually supported and enabled this 20-year delay.
Which brings us to this final, pretty provocative thought. We've just traced a documented 20-year administrative loophole in one single school for one single employee. If a glaring irregularity like this could persist for 2 whole decades right under the nose of the authorities, we really have to ask, how many similar cases are hiding in the broader education system right now? It really highlights the urgent need to cross-check the entire system. Thank you for joining me on this explainer. I hope this deep dive gave you a clear look at just how complex and flawed administrative accountability can be.